Hello, dear RIGA IFF audience. I'm really delighted to meet you here in this virtual environment. And I'm also double delighted to have for a conversation very talented director, Julian Radlmaier, whose film Bloodsuckers, a Marxist vampire comedy, is here and included at the feature film competition. Hi, welcome, Julian.
Yes. Hi, Dārta. Yes, thank you very much for having me at the festival. I'm very sorry I can't be there in person, but we all got used to this kind of setup. So
yeah, great, thanks. But how are you? How things are in your place at this moment?
Oh, in general, I'm fine. I just recovered from Corona actually. I had it despite vaccination, but it was not so bad then. Just a mild form.
Severe case, yeah. Right?
No, not severe. No. And now it's good. I mean, everything's okay.
Okay, I think we can start. So we could have the shift from vaccines to vampires and then Marxism in general. Just to start with, I think that a lot of interviewers and critics might ask you this question about the modern German take on the capitalism or Marx and Engels, because it's quite noticeable in your debut feature, Self-Criticism of a Bourgeoisie Dog, that you're already tackling these type of relations as you're in Bloodsuckers. Maybe you could share a little bit more about it.
I mean, it's just an interest I developed during the last years, probably under the influence of, I don't know, starting with the financial crisis of 2008, all the things that happened in the last 10 years or so. And on the same time, I think I come from more southern Germany, and I moved to Berlin to study there. And this brought me in contact with the whole socialist part of Eastern Germany. And I had a lot of friends and still have a lot of friends from Eastern Europe, from Russia, from Georgia, Poland, etc. And so I got interested in the let's say in the contrast between the reality of state socialism and the communist utopia formulated by Marx and other people in the 19th century. And I don't know, it seems to me always there's some promise that has never been fulfilled, and this is interesting. And at the same time, now it seems that after this tragic and often like very bloody and horrible way the attempts to create a more just society turned out, we're a bit in a lack of a positive, or there's not so many positive utopias left for us nowadays, because we think, okay, all big promises failed, and now what can we do? And so I think this is the historic situations maybe in which my films come from. And I think then the way I tackle it is not like I think you noticed, or you will notice when you see the film, it's not, I don't do any propaganda for some very defined idea of socialism or something like this, but it's more a playful investigation from my very personal point of view of these ideas and the contradictions that arise with them.
Yeah, and I would say that you're having very specific undertone in terms of the time and the frame of the time, because you're playing with signs of time. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about it, because on one hand, we have, let's say, Sergei Eisenstein, and then we have a Coke can, and then we have very hipsterish people who are trying to recite or even grasp the words of Marx and Engels. So how this composition happened?
I mean, I think I always search for a way to keep let's say a personal relation to the material, to the world also. And so let's say there's elements that are far away from me, maybe that come from history, or in this case, really the film is set in the 1920s, but I want to keep elements which help me to relate to that. And so one thing is I cast a lot of friends, and you know, they are not totally transformed into historic characters, but they keep some contemporary feel about them, you know, and I think that's important also to relate to this and to show this is not really a film just about the past, but also it's a dialogue between the present and the past, I think. And the same, you know, I in many historical films, there's so much attention given to historical accuracy, and every detail should be like really, oh, this is the real cup from 1877. And often this gives me like a feeling to be like to walk through a museum, and it can be, you know, fantastic if it's Visconti and if it's totally opulent, and it's not that I think it's always stupid, but I don't know, I prefer to have a looser approach to it. And another gain I think that comes from it is that, like, let's say the 20s were a time where like something like modernity and speed and, you know, was very important. And for example, we chose to use a motorbike from modern motorbike, and I think this conveys maybe better feeling also of speed and modernity than if we would have used the old 1920s motorbike that looked ridiculous to us now, you know. So all these kinds of ideas, yeah, and it's just also what we like, you know. I think I have a very, then let's say there's some thorough basis of research, but then we encounter stuff we just like as objects, and then we decide, okay, can we include this in the film or not? Yeah.
But I think that actually when you're like having this historical displacement, actually it quite works perfectly. It was, at least for me personally, because it allows in a way to have this alienation with the events or the dialogues, the ideas themselves. Yeah, and they're commenting actually the situation. Yeah. What I really enjoy. Yeah.
And I think there's always, you know, we always live in a co-presence also of different times, you know, and the effects from those times are still present, and we are surrounded by objects, you know, and so this historical bridge moments are important to me. And what I remember now is like Riga also played a certain role maybe in the whole thing, because then when I already came to your festivals a few years ago with the last film, and then I saw the birthplace of Sergei Eisenstein in Riga and the houses of his father. And so I think that was a bit the time when I got interested in Eisenstein, and I started to read a biography about Eisenstein, like based on my travel to Riga. And then in one chapter, there was about the shooting of the film October, which is one of his most famous films, which was commissioned for the 10th anniversary of the October Revolution. And this really shaped the idea of the film, because so Eisenstein in this film had written a lot and shot also a lot of scenes with the historical character of Leon Trotsky. But then there was at the same time, Stalin took over the power and forced Eisenstein to cut out all the scenes with Trotsky from the film. And in this biography, there was a funny detail saying that Eisenstein had cast a non-professional actor to play Trotsky, and this guy in real life, I quote now, was some kind of a dentist. And this was just a funny detail to me. I thought, okay, what does it mean, some kind of a dentist? And so this got the whole thing started. So to make it short, I think also this, you know, comes from like I travel somewhere, see something, and I think that all influences then the movies I make.
Yeah, and in the film, this dentist character is Lyovoshka, and I think you played out quite funnily this episode of a toothache at the factory itself. Maybe you can comment, and also the historical kind of elements of that time, also in cinema, and also in regards to Eisenstein, but also this vampire narrative and the genre, and also this trajectory that is in the Kapital as well.
Yeah, so I mean, there's another element that's created. It's strange because I recently wrote a text where I tried to reconstruct a bit the genesis of this film, and it's at the beginning, it's really very loose parts. And one part is that I myself, a few years ago, was part of a Marx reading group, like the one we see in the film. Some of them also were with me in the Marx reading group in reality. And what one notices when one reads Marx is that he uses a lot of Gothic metaphors, like from the popular novels of his time, which were Gothic novels. And so he uses a lot of the vampire metaphor is very present in the text. And I thought it would be interesting to take it literally, but then also you quickly see that the vampire metaphor is also a bit tricky, because Marx describes a structure and vampires are concrete beings, and this is also a problem that is then discussed in the group. And yes, but this was one starting point. And then another one was that, okay, I had imagined this character that leaves the Soviet Union, maybe takes a ship in Riga and makes a stop somewhere more on the German coast to travel further to America. And there's one, maybe the most famous Baltic Sea film from the 20s is the film Nosferatu by Murnau, the German and then later American film director, which is shot actually at the same place more or less where we shot this film. So let's say that the Baltic Sea and the vampire thing and Marx, this is all very closely connected, and I think the film just retraces the quite obvious, if you think of it, relationship.
Yeah, the same sea, the same shore. But also I wanted to ask about the vampire motive, not only in terms of cinema, but also in terms of the relationship between characters, between Lyovoshka, who then hides himself as this Baron Koberski, and then there's this, let's say, melodramatic kind of string with Octavia, and their also struggle or clash between their stratas. Maybe you could talk a little bit about more. How did you approach this also male-female relationship?
I mean, let's say the basic, like Marx uses the vampire metaphor as just, as a metaphor for exploitation, and so all kind of exploitative relationships are, I think, depicted in the film. And let's say that then maybe there's another level to it, because let's say this character Lyovoshka comes to meets this vampire woman, who is not just a vampire, but also maybe, let's say, a condensation of everything that maybe can be fascinating about the bourgeois high class lifestyle, and I think it's a lot about this relation that is they depict so there's a class relation between, I would say, people who have time to read, to cultivate themselves, and thereby seem very interesting, and other people who maybe have to just work all day, and this is the fundamental injustice, I think, that's addressed in the film. And maybe let's say the female character Octavia, she has all this time basically at her disposal to shape herself into a more seemingly more interesting human being or something like this. And this is maybe what fascinates Lyovoshka. And I think we never know, is he really in love with this woman, or is he attracted? And I have a more tendency to think the latter, that he's more attracted to her social status, and what he wants is to climb up the social ladder, which is not at such, a bad thing, because obviously her life seems more pleasant. And and then there's a triangle, because there's also her personal assistant, I think, who is an important character, who is a Jacob, and he is like, let's say, also inspired by this advent of this Soviet character, that for Octavia, he's like a literary character. She sees him in, there's a level of projection, maybe. For him, this guy from communism is like a guy from a novel, and it's, I think, what she finds interesting. And then the servant starts to understand that in this world of the bourgeoisie, what is important is this kind of sublimation, is this kind of literary aspect, and so he wants to become a writer himself. And so I think there's a lot of projections the characters have on each other, and projections that are related to their class position, and this is the dynamics from which the story unfolds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But also I thought about what you said in terms of having this free time, or the idea of workday, and how you fulfill your day itself. Maybe there is some kind of exploitative motive. Maybe I'm just like dropping a bomb on your side in terms of the relationship between the filmmakers and spectators, of having a free time to watch the film and not having a free time because I have to make a film. So this is much more like a speculative question to you.
I mean, this is, I don't know, you know, I mean, the vampirism of cinema has many levels, you know. You could also say one takes people and, you know, sucks out their image and, you know, puts it on the screen or something like this. I don't know if it's, but I don't know if that leads very, very far or something like this. For me, you know, maybe you can reformulate your question. I think as a basic, no one, yeah, maybe you can reformulate. Maybe I also didn't understand.
Sure. I know my comparison was a bit far-fetched, but about this, vampirism in cinema, and the relations on the set, maybe, or between the perception from the audience and their relationship with the film, whether their expectations are met or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, especially in terms of filmmakers and critics and journalist relationships, there is this kind of vampirism and exploitation aspect. Yeah.
I mean, the one big problem, I think, I mean, I'm then also more concerned, let's say, with on the production level to avoid this vampirism in a way. And the basic contradiction that I think a lot of filmmakers have is that we want a lot from people, to give a lot, but we're not usually not, you often don't have the means to pay accordingly to what we ask. And I think this is a problem. I think in a lot of a big part of cinema, this has created some kind of like a military ideology or something like this. So people just, it's allowed to exploit people. And there's also an image of you know, filmmaking geniuses who should just do that. You know, they are assholes, they torture everyone. And this should be what makes cinema great. And I try to, you know, a big part of my hope is to make cinema in a different way, that it's more, it's nicer for the people involved there. And this is one reason I think why I like to work with friends, not because I can exploit them better, but because if I exploit them too much, they will say, fuck off, we don't want to, you know, it's risky for me to exploit them too much in a way. And so I don't want, because but on another level, it's hard because also in this movie, we didn't have enough money. So there was also some structural things I didn't like on retrospect too much. And I think, oh, this was maybe not okay, something like this. So yeah, this is the one problem. And let's say as an audience, you probably don't at all, this level doesn't play a role, you know, if the scene is not good because we decided to send people home because it was too late, the audience doesn't care. I don't know. It's a very different perspective, you know, from when you make the film, like the social aspect of making a film is something that is totally invisible in the finished product, but I think very important as an ethical moment of filmmaking. I don't know if I answered really your question, but yeah.
No. I think you worked perfectly in this playground of my provocative question, because I think that your film actually refers to it in a way, of the filmmaking process itself, and also our relationship as audience to what do we expect from cinema in a way. Yeah, but also wanted to ask, knowing that your film premiered at the Rotterdam Film Festival, how since then it has been received in other countries, especially was thinking about the former communist countries like Latvia. So we're about to wait.
We're about to see.
Yeah, we're about to see, but especially due to Eisenstein, I think it's quite interesting to know. But maybe you can talk about your experience in other countries.
I'm fascinated. There's a lot of flakes now flowing through your image. It's nice. Oh, the cat.
Cat came, yeah.
Okay, the cat came. So, well, actually, the premiere was at the Berlinale, but in February, and this was a pure online event. And so it took actually quite long so that the film got seen by more people in the audience. And there was, and I think the first public screening really was an audience, was in Moscow. I couldn't attend it, and we won a prize there. So at least the jury liked it. And I don't know, I think that in Russia, there was actually the place until now where the biggest amount, but also of articles, but also maybe the most fundamental and thorough and interesting articles were written about the film. So it seems, yes, that the film works, like people can connect better to it, I think, in former communist countries until now than in the West. But it has always been a bit like this with my films, that they worked good in Eastern Europe. And then in strange, like as in Spain and in Mexico, like Spanish people, I don't know why I can relate to it. I am half French, never worked out in France, unfortunately, until now. So I don't know. I think this, like, let's say that the maybe the relation to the Communist Party is still important to fully get what the movie's about. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say this kind of vernacular of class struggle and having this Marxist-Leninist approach also very somewhere present and still in the zeitgeist, I would say, that it kind of bears and resonates as well. Yeah, but I'm very looking forward to know how in Latvia it will be received.
Yeah, me too. Because I don't know, I know that in, I don't know, in Latvia and also in Lithuania, of course, I shot the film in Vilnius also, for example, and there was, like, let's say, the relationship to socialist past seems to be even more problematic than, like, or much more problematic than in Russia, because it is then combined also with this kind of some kind of colonial aspect, and so I hope that the way I tackle this subject is not seen as too frivolous, and I hope that, let's say, the utopian ideas and let's say the real horrors of this are both, let's say, in the film, and they are not maybe too much in the film, because it's I like let's say the film is quite light, and let's say the dark side of socialism is more alluded to, in the we understand he has to leave, Lyovoshka has to leave his country, and so because of political reasons, but I don't show a gulag or something like this, it's not very harsh, but I still I hope that still this dimension also it's present, and it's one can feel that it's not just a naive nostalgic vision of socialism or something like this.
Yeah, I agree. I would disagree when someone would claim that this is something very nostalgic.
And at the same time, I think
analytical perspective, I would say. Yeah.
And on the same time, it's, of course, the film has a sympathy about the basic problematization of exploitation that Marxism made and Marx made, which I think is very interesting and still nowadays. So there's clearly a sympathy on this, like towards the theory, let's say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Julian. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. Maybe there is something that you would like to add or say to our audience, if I didn't ask something, or
I don't know. Yes, I already mentioned that the film. Let's say that I noticed that when I talk about the film, and there's a lot of, of course, those thematic questions are absolutely central and important. But maybe what I would like to stress again is that even if it seems to be a very written and a very artificial maybe setup and story, like for me, what is important is actually something like a documentary aspect. So as I already mentioned before, there's a lot of parents of my friends in the film. and they are put in like in a relation with professional actors who have a very different kind of acting, let's say. And this contrast is, I think, what the film is on an aesthetic level a lot about, you know, about something that is just revealed by the camera, and that is like a photographic quality of people and people I know from my personal life, which brings something documentary, and then an artificial framework and a fictional world that is built around it. But I think it's important to know that, because it maybe gives another perspective on the people that appear, because they sometimes the acting or it can seem maybe strange or something to people who are not used to it, because it's so disparate, I think, as people who come from the theater stage and people who acted for the first time in their lives put together. And I think this is the collision of those two elements is what makes what is for me the fun of making films, actually, and why I like to make movies, and which is a very central aspect of the whole project.
Thank you, Julian, very much for your time and for your film, and we were looking forward for your next work as well, and hopefully we will see in person in Riga, maybe even.
Yeah, I would hope a lot that this could be possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry for my sometimes not so fresh English.
No worries. None of us have very fresh English. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.